reclamation projects are the creation of new land on oceans, seas, rivers, or any other body of water. Land reclamation proves to be an effective defensive strategy against climate change, but it also causes damage to the marine ecosystem it is being built on and its biodiversity. Biodiversity is the different types of living organisms in an ecosystem and their interactions with each other. Biodiversity is important to the ecosystem because it provides many natural resources such as food, water, plants, and oxygen. If biodiversity were to be destroyed, those natural resources would be lost. This study focuses on comparing the biodiversity of the Meteorotactic Field Stadium and the lagoon area directly opposite to the stadium. The stadium was a result of a land reclamation project. By analyzing the plant coverage, species richness, and species abundance of the two sites, we can determine the extent of damage done to the marine environment of the stadium. How this is going to work is that I am going to take a 25-meter transit line using this measuring tape. I'm going to go out to the shore as far as I can go, 25 meters. And from there, every 5 meters, I will be using this quadrant grid to measure the coverage of algae. So for example, if half of this is covered, it's basically 50%. And if like this section is covered with algae, that's basically 25%, so on and so forth. I'm going to dive around and see what I could find, measure the species abundance and richness, and yeah. So right now I am behind the track and field, and this is our first site for our project. We're gonna go measure the plant coverage as well as doing a survey to check what species we can find here. The stadium was shown to have low levels of plant and algae coverage, only covering about 33.2% of the area. It also showed very low species richness of 4 different species and a total species abundance of 118, with seaweed taking up a majority of the total abundance with a total of 70.3%. The area also has snails and crabs, covering a total of 24.5% of the area's abundance. These creatures are capable of controlling the growth of the algae since they eat the algae and its dead matter, ensuring that the algae has a controlled growth rate. This low number of species richness and species abundance indicates that the area has a very low level of biodiversity. So here I am at the second study site, which is the lagoon area directly opposite of the track and field. The tide is very high, so it's going to be good for diving around, doing my survey. The lagoon area showed a high percentage of algae coverage, covering about 63.2% of the area. The area was shown to have a fairly diverse group of organisms with 10 identified species and a total abundance of 208. Similar to the stadium, seaweed covered most of the total abundance, contributing 76 of the total abundance. Other species found in the lagoon were silverfish and crab, which took up 12.1% of the total abundance. Silverfish, similar to the snail and crab, contribute to controlling the growth rate of algae by eating the algae's dead matter. By having the higher number of species richness and species abundance compared to the stadium reveals that the lagoon area has a higher level of biodiversity, or at the very least, higher than the stadium's level of biodiversity. In conclusion, land reclamation proves to be an effective defensive strategy against climate change, but it also causes damage to the marine ecosystem it is being built upon. The stadium was built from a land reclamation project and is used for recreational purposes. The purpose of this assessment was to compare the two areas and determine the differences of the biodiversity done to an area affected by a land reclamation project and an area unaffected. From the data collected, it was found that the track and field had significantly low biodiversity compared to the lagoon area opposite of the stadium. With both sites having high amounts of algae, conservation measures may be necessary to ensure the health of these ecosystems. However, the most effective way to deal with these algae is to maintain a clean environment to prevent nutrient runoff from reaching the water and feeding these algae.